I'd like to call to order the Sparks City Council meeting of Monday, July 9th, 2018, with a roll call, please.
Mayor Martini,
Here.
council members Abbott, Lawson, Smith, Bybee, Deere, City Attorney Adams,
Here.
City Manager Driscoll.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
The opening ceremony's invocation speaker today, we have President Rajan Zed, the University of Society of Hinduism. He's the president of that organization. We all stand for the invocation. Rajan.
Starting with Gayatri Mantra, considered the most sacred mantra of Hinduism, I shall be reading from ancient Hindu scriptures Rig Veda, Upanishad, and Bhagavad Gita, some as old as 1500 BCE. After Sanskrit, I shall translate in English. Om Bhurvubhah Svah Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. We meditate on the transcendental glory of the Deity Supreme, who is inside the heart of the earth, inside the life of the sky, and inside the soul of the heaven. May he stimulate and illuminate our minds. Astoma Sadgamya, Tamsoma Jyotirgamya, Mrityor Mamratam Gamya. Lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, lead us from death to immortality. Tasmada Saktastatam Karyam Karma Samachara, Asakto Hyacharan Karma Parmapnoti Purusha, Karma Nevahi Samsiddhi Mastita Jankadya, Loka Sangreha Mevapi Sampashankar Tumra Hasi. Strive constantly to serve the welfare of the world. By devotion to selfless, one attains the supreme goal of life. Do your work with the welfare of others always in mind. Om Saha Navavatu, Saha Nobunaktu, Saha Viryan Karva Bahai, Tejasvi Nava Ditamastu, Ma Vidvisa Bahai. May we be protected together, may we be nourished together, may we work together with great vigor, may our study be enlightening, may no obstacle arise between us. Samniva Akuti, Samna Hirdhyaniva, Samna Mastu Vomano, Yathava Susa Hasti. United your resolve, united your hearts, may your spirits be at one, that you may long together dwell in unity and concord. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajan. Would you remain standing, please, for the pledge of allegiance? Mr. Bobby, would you lead us, please?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, public comment, if you want to make a comment under public comment, please fill out one of these cards, give it to the clerk, and we'll get you up in 3 minutes. First, we have Marcy Coopersmith. Welcome. How are you?
No bad days.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, my name is Marcy Cooper-Smith. I'm a senior, I live in Sparks, and I am so happy that agenda item 9.2 is on the agenda tonight, formation of a Sparks Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. Yay! So I just want to thank all of you for your continued efforts, your continued support on seniors, and especially poor Councilmember Atkins, who had to deal with me for 13 months on the issue. I'm surprised she's not gray yet, but
Oh, I'm turning it.
Thank you all.
And Marcy, he did promise me he wouldn't run again. No matter how this committee goes, whatever you do, you're not going to deter him from running again. Next, we have Donna Clance. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. My name is Donna Clance. I'm Chair of the Reno Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, and I'll speak later on 9.2 when we get there. But I brought some materials for all of you from our collection of info that we're giving to the seniors everywhere. One of the things that's holding the whole package together is this little brochure that we put together that's a quick guide to all kinds of senior services all over Washoe County. And we're kind of hoping that once we get done, and it's going to reprint shortly, because you can see it's a little out of date. It does say Reno Sparks, Washoe County Elder Services, but we don't have your logo on it yet because you officially were not with the committee. So that'll be coming, we hope. And then the rest of it, we're working together on creating an AARP, age-friendly, livable community process in our area. Reno City Council just passed it in June to apply to begin the process here. We are already talking to the county commissioners about this and having Washoe County join us. And then again, once you get your senior citizen advisory committee, if it goes there later, we'd hope to add Sparks to this process as well. So I've given you a little bit of information about what that does. It's kind of a guideline for a lot of things that improve a city or a community for all folks that are getting a little bit older. And then the last thing you may have gotten before from Community Foundation is a caregiver guide that you might use if you get calls from folks in the community that might just be becoming caregivers that need the beginning help about what to do and where to go and who to call. So thank you for the time, and we're looking forward to item 9 later.
Thanks, Donna, appreciate it. Bill Wagner?
Bless you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council. For the record, my name is Bill Wagner. I currently live in the Vistas. I'm here to talk about 225 North Los Altos Parkway, PNC 18009, multifamily homes, 10 to 14 residential units per acre, total of 7.2 acres. The agenda line items are 9.6 and 9.7. I'm not against the building of a single-family homes against Landstar. What I am against is multi-family homes, which could create to 77 or 108 units. 6 of the 7 Sparks commissioners voted to approve the development. They did not listen to the 35 people who spoke and the other 75 who chose not to speak. All 110 homeowners were against the development. Therefore, when the second reading comes, before you do the right thing, and please vote no. My concerns are as follows. If you approve the development, what is preventing Landstar from building 108 units in order to maximize profits? The development's ingress and egress are right next to the roundabout, which will cause lots of vehicle issues. 2 to 3 years of additional parking, traffic from developers and subcontractors, large trucks traveling up and down at all hours of the day. Let's not forget the traffic from the following: the grade school, the regular vehicle drivers, and the 5 access streets, Vista Terrace, Vista Heights, Belmar, Goodwin, and now Landstar Drive as units sell. Two to 3 years of construction noise, which will have a profound effect on the homebound, day sleepers, retirees, elderly, to name a few. In conclusion, I assume there is no evacuation plan for all those desperate people requiring assistance in case of major fire, major earthquake, major snowstorm, and a major rainstorm. Thank you for your valuable time. I really do appreciate it. Now, on the second thing, the flags at Los Altos Parkway are correct. Thank you, Ron and council. And the other thing I would like to know when we will receive maybe a master plan for what we're going to do to Los Altos Parkway if if all this becomes real. First time ever. Huh? Right on the money, right on the money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bruce Foster? Last one, anybody else? Welcome, Bruce.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I also wish to have opposition against the development of the 75-unit townhouse complex. Moved up to the Liberty Hills subdivision approximately 4 years ago, and quality of life is a number one, the key there. And I don't wish to reinvent the wheel, as I've already emailed all you. And what I've been reading on a lot of other people that have been up there, I know you've been up there, Charlene, for many years, and such as many, many others, and seeing the issues that have arose with the blasting and then the increased traffic issues, Bud Beasley issues. And as I pointed out in my email, it's just going to continue to create more gridlock. And as I summed it up, I'm anti-gridlock. And another concern is it's just one way in, one way out. You have Los Altos down, Los Altos on the other side, both sides Vista. And we saw that with emergencies, water breaks, that type of thing, it did create major issues, particularly for any emergencies or anything like that. And with some 75 townhouse proposal, certainly foresee the increased number of cars, which is going to be double that. And so it's going to be, particularly up at the top at the roundabout, that's going to create a major issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Anyone else? Excuse me, last chance. Okay. Before we go to approval of the agenda, excuse me, in the crowd we have from the University of Nevada, Laura Wilhelm, is that correct? Now, Laura is with a speech and debate class at the University of Nevada, is that correct? And you are preparing people for first-generation income qualified students? You are preparing them to go to college? First ones in their family that have attended college? Is that what I'm getting? So all these young, beautiful faces that you see up here, other than Bill, he's an old, beautiful face, but these young people are all first-generation people that are going to go to college, and we appreciate that. And Laura, I would like you to come up for a quick second and just maybe explain to the audience your program real quick, because I have done a poor job, I'm sure. So I would let you know there's millions of people out there watching, so expect your classes to go much higher than they are now, so.
Thank you all for allowing us to come today. So we're part of what's called the Upward Bound program at the University of Nevada, Reno, and it serves area high school students as they're transitioning between high school and college. So they get to come to UNR over the summer and take a variety of courses. The course that I'm teaching is a speech and debate course. So we do public speaking, and the reason I wanted to bring them here today as well is to showcase the idea that we can all get involved in local government and that things that affect us on a daily level happen in meetings just like this right now. And that public speaking, there's different ways to do that, and there's different traditions, and that this is one way that that's enacted, so. Thank you all for it.
Time for them to get up and speak then, one by one, is that?
The offer was extended if they had wanted to say something. I think at this time they're choosing not to, but.
Thank you, that's a very wise decision, by the way, thank you. So, you know, congratulations to you for doing this and to the students for what you're doing, and let's give them a big round of applause. Thanks for coming. Anybody have any questions for Laura?
Comment.
Go ahead.
This is one of the greatest skills you're going to learn in your life. It's more people are afraid of public speaking than they are of dying. It's pretty amazing to me that's that great. So learning that to speak in public is a great idea. It's going to take you great places in your future. Congratulations.
Christopher?
Yes, there's a lot of students graduating that would be very much helped by something like this. How do they find out more about getting involved in this?
Well, it's a grant-funded program through UNR, so we do a lot of recruitment and outreach at area high schools that qualify, that the grants fund.
Gotcha.
So the counselors at the high school, as well as some of the personnel that work with the Upward Bound program, will go to the high schools and speak to that. So from when students transition from middle school into high school, they should start hearing about that as well. And then they can also search us online at the same time. So, and students can come back multiple times, so someone who's in 9th grade can transition and go, multiple years and come every summer.
Anyone from Sparkside? Let me kick back, and then Charlie, you're next. Let me kick back on what Ed said about public speaking. I consider myself to be okay in public speaking. I can handle it pretty well. But let me tell you where I started as a freshman at the University of Nevada. I dropped out of Speech 101 3 times because I was afraid to get up and talk in front of people. Now, believe that or not, but it's true. I was afraid to get up and talk in front of people, and now there's no people that I'm afraid to get up and talk in front of. I might not sound well, I might sound a little dumb, but I'm not afraid to talk to them anyway. So don't be afraid, like Ed said, don't be afraid. Get up, talk, give your piece, and I think this is a great example, and you're right. And I hope we haven't soured you on American government, because we're all good people, and the process we use here is a wonderful process. And, we let people speak their mind, as you can see from public speaking, public comment time. So it's a great process, and it's one you should learn. And again, take a look at what I did. I learned how to talk in front of people because I just made up my mind I was going to do it, and I finally did it. But I was very scared the first few times that I did it. So, Charlene, go ahead.
I'd like to welcome you all here today. Let me get a microphone. Okay. Welcome you here today, and really excited that you brought them here to our city council meeting to watch local government in action. What I love, and I've been on the council almost 4 years, and we'll be serving another 4, which I'm super excited about. But what I like best is that local government is closest to the people. So I see my constituents in the grocery store. I see them on an everyday basis. It's not like being in Washington, D.C., or even Carson City, where you're kind of removed from the people that vote for you, whose interests you're supposed to represent. So really, local government is closest to everyday people. And I think you understanding that you have a voice, no matter your age, that you have a right to express your opinion. You also, I would hope, would learn how to respect each other's opinions, and that we can have differences of opinions without attacking each other, and that be respectful of everyone and the right to engage. And I'm sure in your debate class, you're learning that there are differences of opinions and we respect each other's. And I think coming here and then observing local government in action and maybe getting involved at your schools, in student council and at the university, is very empowering, that you have the chance, you're the future, and you have the opportunity to help mold that by being involved and being active as you move through your education. So best of luck to all of you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate you bringing them here. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to the agenda. Anybody want to take anything out of order? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion. Mr. Lawson?
Approve the agenda as presented.
Do you have a second? Mr. Abbott?
Second that.
Motion by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve the agenda as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Number 6.1, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting of June 25th, 2018. Any omissions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Mr. Dare?
I move to approve the minutes of June 25th, 2018.
Ms. Bybee?
Second?
Motion by Mr. Dare, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 6.1, the minutes of June 25th, 2018. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Number 7, proclamation Parks and Recreation Month. Who's going to be here to take that? Ms. Tracy, thank you. Right, let me see it. Yeah, Tony Hawk's here. This is the 13th time I've done this, or I can't remember. Okay, City of Sparks proclamation. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Sparks, Nevada. And whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of business, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protected groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas, my goodness, parks and recreation offer a lifetime of discovery and a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas last one, and whereas we recognize the vital contributions of our employees and volunteers in parks and recreation who keep public parks clean and safe for visitors, provide events and programming for all ages and abilities, advocate for more open space and better trails, and ensure the parks and recreation facilities are safe and accessible places for all citizens to enjoy. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim July 20th, 2018, Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Sparks. Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, Tracy. That last one for you. For me, yeah. For me. Who's next?
Good afternoon, Mayor Martini and council members. Tracy Dominguez, Parks and Recreation Director. Again, I'm here to thank you for this proclamation and recognizing the Parks and Rec Department and staff and services that we provide for our community. As you know, in July, we also recognize all of our volunteers and sponsors. So soon we'll be doing a full-page ad in the Reno Gazette-Journal for naming every volunteer that helps provide the services that we do. And if I could very quickly show you a quick video that Julie Duell was very kind to put together for us for July as Parks and Rec Month. We'll play that it's very quick.
Since 1985, America has celebrated July as the nation's official Park and Recreation Month. And here at the City of Sparks, we're doing the same. We think it's great to recognize the importance of our community parks and recreation areas. Here are some fun facts for you. Did you know we have 48 parks in Sparks? We have 2 sports complexes that attract more than 1 million visitors per year. We have 3 community centers and 2 seasonal aquatics facilities. We offer programs and events for all ages and abilities. We've got an amazing guide to help you navigate trails throughout the Truckee Meadows. We have 2 event venues, the Sparks Marina Park and Victorian Square, that attract more than 750,000 people per year. So as you can see, we've got a lifetime of discovery right here in Sparks. We encourage you to get out and enjoy Park and Recreation Month throughout July and every month.
Very nice, Tracy.
So thank you.
Thank you. Before you go, Tracy, again, about volunteerism. I'm so thankful for the people that volunteer to help us, because without them, we'd never make it. Especially through the recession, we had a lot of troubles and had to lay some people off, and keeping up with parks was very, very difficult. Had it not been for our volunteers, I think we'd have been in serious trouble. So all of you that volunteered, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Okay, let's go to 7.2, presentation on the Purple Heart Truck Run. Welcome, gentlemen.
Couple of old combat veterans in front of you here.
Well, we'll just say combat veterans, seasoned combat veterans, how's that?
Yeah, we lived.
Bonus.
Yeah, what we're here today is to, and thank you for having us. We have a 2018 Purple Heart Truck Run. What that is we have a specially modified truck that the Military Order of the Purple Heart has had going across the United States, 7,800 miles on this trip. It's going to be at Dandini campus of TMCC on July 17th at 9 a.m. We have amputee drivers, and they're going to demonstrate the truck. The governor has made a proclamation recognizing this, but a little history, most people don't know what the Purple Heart is. The Purple Heart is the medal given to recipients for being either wounded or killed in action. In the last 100 years, we've had 1.8 million recipients of the Purple Heart in the United States. So essentially, you could say that all of our Purple Heart veterans today are the ones that keep those red stripes red with their blood. And this is the Purple Heart's effort to help our young Afghani and Iraqi vets, who the one who is going to win this truck is a double amputee. And we will be awarding that truck to that individual July 30th, this month, after it did a 7,800-mile trip across America's cities and counties and states. And as we are as a Purple Heart state, you may not know that, but last year Nevada became a Purple Heart state by the legislature. That's why the governor is writing a proclamation for this event. And everybody's welcome. The title of it is Mobility is Freedom. We have these young veterans coming back, and some of them, their mobility is near zero. And we've specially modified this truck to where a hydraulic system will take them from the ground up to the seat with all the appropriate handicap driving facilities in the vehicle. And then when they park, that same hydraulics will take them back down to the street level. So that's basically what we're here. We have a press release to give you. We actually have pictures of the actual truck, which we will give to you. So for the people who can't see that.
Sir, do you want to put it on the document?
Oh, you think we can operate that?
Well, don't push the wrong button because it might blow up, okay?
All you gotta do is put the paper on.
Okay, it's on. It says turn on.
That's all you need to do.
Actually didn't say that, but there was a red light, I assume.
There you go. Nice.
So this is well, I'll show you a couple of them then before we're done.
Well, now you're on a roll.
This is the truck. This is the hydraulic system that works. Now, obviously, this costs a lot of money. So we did have one other organization with us that's sponsoring this, the Wounded Warriors Family Support Foundation, are a key part of this truck being built. We plan on doing this each year, because as you know, with IEDs in Iraq and Afghanistan, a lot of our young people are missing their limbs. And we're going to award this each year. And the actual winner, who won't be the driver that comes into Reno Sparks, is a double amputee, Sergeant Burdett. He's out of Florida. We take nominations throughout the nation for this. And that's the actual winner who will get the keys on July 30th. And we welcome anybody here that would like to be at the event. It's 0900. That's 9 a.m. for you young people. At TMCC near their vet center. We've already dedicated a Purple Heart space there, and it's painted purple, and that's where the truck will be parked. And we have a short program, and then the drivers are going to demonstrate how everything works in the truck, the actual handicapped drivers.
Don't forget, they can get to sign the truck.
Oh, part of our program across the country was if you give a small donation, you can sign this truck. And that's essentially it. And we welcome everybody from Sparks and all of Nevada.
Questions for the gentleman? Go ahead, Teresa. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, give us your name is for the record. I'm sorry.
My name is Andy LaPelbit, and Ken?
And Ken Santor.
We're both state commanders of Nevada, past state commanders. And Ken is the past state treasurer of Nevada and the past regional commander for the Military Order of the Purple Heart, and is a frozen chosen Korean War vet.
And we know him well.
I know him just a little bit.
Welcome, Ken. I got another question.
No question. If people wanted to donate, is there a website to go to, or how do you make a donation to this project?
Actually, it's always been donations at our events. We do not, I don't know, is there a website? What's a website?
Perfect.
I don't know.
I'm part of the old generation, I don't know.
You should talk.
Okay, thank you. So you can bring money that day.
So I see our city manager taking some notes, and I hope one includes a proclamation from the city of Sparks, please. Okay. All right, gentlemen, thanks. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Who do I
July
give all this to?
17th? July 17th,
17th at 9
TMCC?
a.m.
TMCC?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks.
And I'll be back next month.
What'd you say, Ken? You'll be back?
I'll be back next month.
Okay, we'll be here.
They left me off the agenda.
We'll see that never happens again, Ken. Thank you. Okay, number 7.3, presentation annual EMS oversight program. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good. And the chief?
Good afternoon.
Welcome, chief.
Mayor, councilman, for the record, Chris Maples, the fire chief of the city of Sparks. With me today is Christina Conti. She is the preparedness and EMS oversight program manager for the health department. And one of her duties as the manager of that program is to make an annual presentation to the various governing bodies about what has gone on in the past year. She made that presentation to Washoe County last week, and she's addressing you here today. And her presentation will cover the function of the oversight program and also the 5-year strategic plan. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Christina, but before I do, I have 2 other things I'd like to comment on. Mayor, you indicated that you passed or you dropped out of public speaking 101 3 times. Well, I put it off until my senior year when I finally realized I wasn't going to graduate without that class. And so I would encourage all of you to take it sooner in your college careers rather than later.
Let's do it.
And the second comment I'd like to make is that we have several combat veterans from the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq in the fire department, and at least one of those is a Purple Heart recipient. So with that, Christina?
I don't know how to follow that.
It's easy.
I never took public speaking, so. Hello, my name is Christina Conti. As the chief said, I'm with Washoe County Health District. Annually, we come to the councils to give a presentation since we are your oversight program. We work for you, we work with you, and so it's our opportunity to share with you what's been happening in the previous fiscal year as well as what we're currently working on. So our presentation this year is a little bit delayed due to scheduling and everything, so I apologize for that. A quick reminder, so the EMS oversight program, there are 5 of us. 2 of us are full-time, so that would be myself as well as Brittany Dayton. She's the EMS coordinator. She takes care of all of the compliance elements of the franchise agreement within our region as well as other special projects. The mass casualty incident plan is something that she's responsible for updating and reviewing as well as the evacuation annex. We have a part-time statistician, Heather Kerwin, so the reports that you will see today, as well as other quarterly reports or special reports that come through are from her. Jackie Lawson is an office support specialist. She's part-time with our program. And then the advisory board has a support person, Don Spinola. Just a reminder, the interlocal agreement came into play August 2014. And the main thing that it did was it changed compliance from the franchise ambulance system into a system performance. It also expanded the data collection that we were receiving at the health district to be able to really look at what the system was doing. The authority of the interlocal agreement lies within the District Board of Health. And that interlocal agreement established the EMS Advisory Board, our program, and it defined the duties of both the oversight program as well as those signatories of the interlocal agreement, which City of Sparks is one of them. The composition of the board is what you see in front of you, the managers from the 3 political jurisdictions, the district health officer, an emergency room physician. So an update from when I had this, Dr. Michelson has been reappointed to our board, so we're gonna have that continuity of the advisory board. And then the hospital continuous quality improvement representative. So we have 2 District Board of Health appointees. The advisory board was essentially established as a ground place for ideas to come from, to then vet everything, work together in the region, and then push up to the councils. So you'll see an organizational chart right in front of you that just sort of shows you the ideal route of the program, the advisory board, and how we all intersect together. What was passed out to you before is our fiscal year 17 annual report. I have some highlights that I'll go through for you. This report concludes, it's July to June. So we just finished the fiscal year 18. So that annual report would be going to the EMS Advisory Board in October, and then District Board of Health, and then coming to you after that. For those of you online, all these published reports are available on the Washoe County Health District website. In the EMS program, we have all the previous reports published there as well as the current ones. So what you'll see here in fiscal year 17 is that there were 51,372 calls for service. So the next bullet there, when it says matched calls between fire agencies and REMSA, shows that for those 51,000 calls in our region in Washoe County, it received both a fire and a REMSA response. And that's an 11.8% increase from fiscal year 16. One of the projects that we did showed just that continual growth year after year, and this demonstrates that just from one fiscal year. The median response times from en route to a fire first responder, again, looking at the 3 fire departments, is 4 minutes and 7 seconds, and then en route to REMSA arrival, 5 minutes and 26 seconds. And then what you'll see down there is patient perspective. And one of the things that Ms. Kerwin looks at is that oftentimes citizens do not, aren't as worried about what badge is knocking on the door, simply that somebody is there to help them. So this is void of whichever agency is arriving, that from the moment they called, so the PSAP time until somebody is there, using the REMSA priority. So you can see priority 1, the median time is 6 minutes and 8 seconds from calling 911 until somebody is at their door. Also within the annual report, you'll see the regional accomplishments for that fiscal year. So going through the ones that have been accomplished in that EMS strategic plan that Chief mentioned, is that we established a franchise map review methodology, and that's looking at the ambulance franchise. So annually, there is now a process that is put in place rather than sitting around a table and sort of seeing if things work the way that they should. We also determined the data elements for that Omega process that we put into place, which utilizes the nurse health line instead of immediately sending a fire first responder or REMSA. We have the nurse now with the ability to triage some calls. Some other strategic planning initiatives that were in process is the implementation of appropriate protocols for low acuity priority 3 calls. That's also taking a look at if all calls require both a fire and a REMSA response, or if potentially some of them could start going to the nurse, or maybe only one partner goes and not the other, as well as beginning that CAD to CAD interface between the primary PSAP and REMSA. The next one actually has been implemented, and we've had our first review of it. So the regional EMS protocols, we're extremely proud of this project and the partners that we have worked with on this, because we now in Washoe County have 8 agencies that operate under the same pre-hospital protocols. And that is a huge achievement for our region. They went into place April 1st of 2018, and they just went through their first review with input from medical directors as well as the fire departments and REMSA when they went through their training process and started using it if there was any issues. And that one just went through the review and has a July 1 new implementation date. The trauma data report is in front of you. That is another achievement for our region that was passed out as well. What that is the first time in, for our state where a local jurisdiction has a trauma data report. Usually the state does them, so we're extremely proud of that. We just had another one drafted, and it will go before the EMS Advisory Board in October. The last bullet that I'll point out to you is the creation of a regional response heat map. One of the things that we did was a partnership with GIS. Do not remember the long name for that, but the map people. They took all our data, and what it does is when you look at your region, you can actually see the median response times from using a heat perspective of red, yellow, green, for if response gets to you and how long it might take. So obviously, the farther out you go from the core of any area, the longer that might be, but it's an opportunity for citizens to really take a look where they're gonna move to and see what 911 services for EMS look like. What you'll also see in the strategic plan are the partner accomplishments. We in the EMS oversight program do not edit those. So what you find in there for City of Sparks will actually be from the chief and his staff of what they believe from EMS perspective is their accomplishments for the year. So looking forward to the year that we just concluded, some of the projects that we worked on were continuing to look through those low acuity priority 3 calls and making some recommendations to the region for that. The CAD to CAD interface as well as AVL and being able to see that between the PSAP and REMSA is moving along. Reno is taking the lead on this initiative, and so we're hoping that it will then push out to the other 2 jurisdictions. Quality improvement is something that we are starting to look at. If we have the same protocols, then we should QI together looking at those things so that we know for changes if there's some examples that we can utilize. And then the AVL information gathering project that went board and District Board of Health in April of 2018. And that was simply looking at AVL from a technological standpoint, not policy at all. Additional projects were, hopefully you've seen the advertisements on the appropriate use of 911, that things are certainly a problem, but they're not necessarily an emergency. And so hoping to influence that 11.8% increase of calls with those non-emergency numbers so that we can free up the 911 system. Working with regional partners for the downtown corridor, that area had 3 times the amount of call volume as the next one in the line list, which then happened to be the bus stop. So in one fiscal year, that downtown area had 1,600 calls for service. And so that is obviously not a sustainable model. And so looking at what the response could look like there, which includes a collaboration with the MOST team. The multi-casualty incident plan just got updated. That includes an alpha plan. So for those of you who recall the attacks in Paris, the idea for this, for our region came from that, is that we have a really solid multi-casualty incident plan, but it does not account for if it's multiple locations or if it's over 100 people. So this is something that has been in the process for the last probably 2 years and really got some traction in the last 9 months or so and just went to the board. And finally, the last thing I'll highlight for you is an EMS training video. It's a grant through the governor's office, and it is for our first responders or anyone who would like to utilize the learning opportunities from it. And it's with some tips and information on interacting with citizens with an intellectual developmental disability when there is not an imminent threat to them. And you can take the time to really be aware of the needs of those citizens so that you don't cause undue harm. So I know that I went through that quite quickly, but I am available for any questions that you might have.
Questions, Mr. Dare?
Yes, I just want to say. One, I get to see these reports quite often on the health board, and you guys, it's pretty impressive watching what REMSA and how everyone works together and looking at these and from every report that comes in. We look at each of the things. It's good. I did have one question on what you said, though. Is when you say downtown, you're talking about downtown Reno 3
Correct.
times? I just want to make sure we make that clear to our citizens here, that
I
downtown is
apologize.
not downtown Sparks.
Correct, downtown Reno.
Yes, thank you, appreciate that. And we're way down on the list, right? Just say yes, that's okay.
We have hotspots of our own.
We do have our own hotspots, gotcha. So, but thank you, you do a great job, and I get to hear your reports often, and they're good, and it's neat to see us all working together as a region when it comes to, especially when it comes to emergency. Emergency has no boundaries, doesn't know that, so, thank you.
Our pleasure.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks.
Can I get in real quick?
Go ahead.
On
I don't see your
our
name over here.
Sorry. On our sheet, on the 60% that we meet and 90% is the standard, that, I guess I'm a little confused. Is that 60% of our call volume? It's on, I don't know, the sheet you gave. I don't know if you have one yourself.
Okay, tell me what it is. What's your question?
So it says expected 90%, and then the calls used is 5,875. And then we met the standard 60% of the time?
That's
Is that-
correct, and I
okay.
believe what you're referring to is our travel time to a call.
Yes,
which is
en route.
4 minutes, and the national standard would be responding within 4 minutes. We do not meet that, okay? And the likelihood of us meeting that now with our current deployment and the number of stations we have is pretty low, okay?
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to consent items, 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3. Everybody want to pull a consent item? Mr. Smith?
I move to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.3.
Do we have a second? Mr. Dare.
I second that.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve the consent items. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously, thank you. Okay, let's move on to 9.1, general business. Discussion and possible approval of amendment number 1 to the interlocal agreement for emergency medical services oversight between Washoe County Health District, Washoe County, the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, City of Reno, and City of Sparks. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Steve Driscoll, City Manager for the record, and joining me is Christina Conti from Washoe County Health. She, in her presentation a few moments ago, talked about the interlocal agreement that was agreed to by the various EMS providers in the community. And this was kind of the reworking and the renegotiation of the REMSA contract. And the oversight through the interlocal agreement has the 4 main bodies that agreed to do certain things as it relates to that system. As with all agreements, there's time where you see that you need some change. And one of the things that we determined as the oversight committee, which is the 4 managers that you talked about and the 2 hospital folks, is that from time to time, one of us is not available, and we typically try to have someone from our jurisdictions show up, and so we appoint someone to sit in our chair as a voting member. What we decided amongst ourselves is that there should be some continuity as to who can sit at the table. So the intent of this amendment was to say that if someone's sitting in the chair making the decisions, that they should be kind of like ability or like responsibility and authority. So we pretty much settled on the fact that if city manager's not available, then an assistant city manager should be there versus any other level in the organization. And so we're just looking for the council to consider that, and we're recommending that you change and that you approve this amendment number 1 to the agreement.
Questions for Steve or Christina? Okay, seeing none, looking for a motion. Mr. Dare.
I'm good to make a motion. I move to approve amendment number 1 to the interlocal agreement for emergency medical services oversight to allow representatives of the advisory board authority to designate an alternate to replace the representative in the representative's absence from meetings of the advisory board, with alternates being a city or county assistant manager or health district division director.
Have a second, Mr. Smith?
Second.
It's moved by, I'm sorry.
That's okay, no worries.
It's moved by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve agenda item 9.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
More? You have more punishment coming, Steve?
I would be next if you would.
9.2. Thanks, Christina, appreciate it. 9.2, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of resolution number 3335, formalizing the Sparks Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Steve Driscoll, city manager for the record. Item 9.2 in front of you was from a question and a request by Mr. Abbott, who represents Ward 1. He also sits on a committee on your behalf with seniors at Washoe County. What he asked without any objection from the council was to consider creating an advisory committee somewhat similar to the current Sparks Citizens Advisory Committee that would sit as appointees from this body, and that they would consider issues that might be in front of the city related to various topics. Specifically with Mr. Abbott's request, this was was to be covering topics above and beyond what the Citizens Advisory Committee does, and really kind of be focused on what we would consider senior citizens. We see our senior population growing inside the city of Sparks, both those who choose to live here, and then also those who choose to partake in services that are provided on location in Sparks, not always specifically what's done at the county level on 9th Street. And so while I put this off for quite a while, on purpose actually, and as I had explained to Mr. Abbott, since he was just getting involved in senior issues, I wanted to make sure that when we created a resolution and put this committee in front of you, that it would be satisfying the types of activities this Mr. Abbott was seeing as your liaison to that. And so while it's very similar to the Citizens Advisory Resolution, the resolution that's in front of you is specifically designed to deal with the business that is contemplated with this type of committee. We do not have neighborhood boards or community boards that have specific authorized powers to go do things as you do in other jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions have neighborhood boards that actually get involved in land use and land planning. Our Citizens Advisory Committee is strictly for the purposes of looking at and providing suggestions to this council on ways to improve levels of service for particular segments of our population. And so with that, the draft resolutions in front of you for your contemplation today is specifically designed to deal with the following topics. One, that as with most resolutions, it's why are you doing this? So there is a definition as to the purpose of the new committee. It also defines the membership and the membership requirements. It outlines how the new committee will provide recommendations to the council. This committee doesn't spend money. It doesn't have any authorities from that standpoint. They're not, unless you were to direct them through me as the liaison to go do something specific operationally. They would be coming back and providing you information, and then you as policymakers would provide the manager with policy to do something specific. It also creates leadership positions. It defines officers for the purposes of conducting meetings. It also allows for subcommittees, so if you were to ask a specific question, or if the committee itself wanted to do some of their own homework on something, they could create a subcommittee. And the reason that's important is that two things with this committee, they need to be doing things timely, but also their meetings are subject to open meeting law. So when you have subcommittees, you've got to be very careful as to whether or not they are also subject to open meeting law as defined by state. And the last thing that it provides are two things. One is actual meetings and the frequencies. And then the last thing is providing, the council providing a liaison to this committee from staff, and that's specifically through the city manager's office, as well as to having a member of your elected board kind of as an ex officio member to oversee the activities and the business of this committee. So with that, that's my presentation, and I'm prepared to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Driscoll?
Regina? If I may? We can make one correction to the resolution. It notes that we are going to approve this in 2019. That date should be 2018. So I have the authority to correct that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steve, you mentioned in there that they are subject to the open meeting law, this new committee?
Correct.
So what are we going to do to educate them on what that really means? Because, I mean, they're together every day at the senior center, and they're going to be talking to each other, so there's some consequences to that.
It would be the responsibility of the liaison, as in me, to make sure that we provide the appointees of this committee with a proper education as to what open
Okay.
meeting law means, what are their responsibilities as they meet doing the business of this committee, and as they might possibly meet doing other business, and that it could be perceived that they might be crossing up and doing business with this committee. So it does end up walking a fine line, as you well know, because you live that as well as your staff. And so it'll be very important for us. We will sit down. There are specific training capabilities that we have to explain how open meeting law works, and then to be able to provide interpretation for members of this committee or committee members like this.
Attorney involved? Will there be attorney present?
If I have to.
What's that?
Yes, the training that's contemplated typically comes from the attorney's office, and it is, what we try to do is to keep that information as current as possible. So we have that information ready based on the last changes that were made in 2017. Obviously, we contemplate, if you were to approve today, we would start soon. In 2019, any changes made by the legislature would obviously be updated to all the boards and commissions and to yourselves. They would be subject to that update.
Because I know with other commissions and boards, we usually have, depending on availability, right, Chet? We have somebody from the attorney's office available in case legal questions arise or whatever. So I'm just hoping we'll have availability to do that, Mr. Adams.
If you need an attorney, you've got one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, Charlie?
So the Spark Citizen, this Spark Citizen Senior Advisory Committee, how would it interact? Would it be completely independent, or would it also interact with the Washoe County? Or do they just communicate with each other? Would they be interactive at all, or would ours be operating independently?
Steve Driscoll, for the record, the intent is that this is going to be focused on Sparks. And so to the extent that if there was a service or a program that this group was looking to advise the liaison as the manager or your ex officio member, if it was something that had a relationship to what's going on in Washoe County, we would figure out how to extend and kind of reach across that chasm, if you will. They're not intended to be on an island, but part of the request that came to Mr. Abbott originally was to try to have a Spark-centric focus on services and programming that would be related to our senior population. And so the idea is with this resolution, we'll get started. We'll get a feeling for the types of agenda topics that are discussed and to the extent of recommendations they might provide. And if it crosses over, that's where Mr. Abbott in his current role with the Washoe County organization and the senior center would provide kind of that bridge. And then between himself and myself at your direction determine whether we need to kind of change what we're doing or change the relationship of membership here and/or membership there. So we have some members that are Sparks folks. They may or may not be what lands here. If they do have dual duties, we'll have to figure it out.
And I just want to thank you I want to thank you for, Councilman Abbott, for bringing this to us, and Manager Driscoll for your work on this. I think it's critically important. And as one of Sparks' senior citizens myself,
Oh,
you and me
was a
both.
volunteering question.
I think it's important to have this group to talk about issues that are central to seniors, and I think we can capitalize on the availability of time and expertise and experience that our seniors have to address things that are happening here in Sparks. And as you said earlier, our senior population is growing, and I think it's important for us to work together with them. And I'm looking forward to this committee being formed, and thank you, Mr. Abbott, for bringing this forward.
Charlene, I hate to tell you this, but you're just a pup, okay? I have socks older than you. Mr. Dare.
Well, as someone who has about 20 years before I'm senior citizen, I'll get there. Thank you for forging the way. Thank you for forging the way. I'd like to make sure that we hear from you guys every once in a while in here. I know we don't necessarily get to be in those meetings, but part of the reason I like this is that we get to hear your voice, and I'm talking to you a little bit back there. But please make sure you come and share with us how it's going, what's going on. We definitely appreciate that.
Get your work cut out for you, pal. Okay, any other comments, questions from the council? I do have
Mr.
a
Mayor,
public. Go ahead.
if I might, I did want to let you know that in the staff report, while you're only dealing with the resolution today, I did provide kind of a draft of bylaws that were constructed very similar to Citizens Advisory Committee and some of our other committees. This would be something that this committee, once it got started, would be one of the first pieces of business as to kind of how they're going to govern themselves within their own meeting structure. The reason this is not here for council approval is if I do that, if I was to suggest that to you today, it would not be flexible for what they need. They will have to follow, as the bylaws states, the open meeting law piece. They would also, anything that this council directs through Mr. Abbott, we would do that, and that would be the responsibility of the liaison, the manager's office, or whoever my appointee is, to make sure that we're doing this council's bidding, and reporting back is one of the things that's in there that we would be looking at a periodic update as to kind of what they're thinking, what they're doing, similar to what you get from the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Okay, I do have a comment, public comment, Mr. Mac Rossi. What up, Mr. Rossi?
Thank you. My name is Mac Rossi. I'm a member of the Senior Advisory Board for the City of Reno. I make one comment that Councilman Larson said about public speaking. And I had a close friend that passed away while I was in high school, and they asked me if I wanted to get up and speak. And I didn't think anything of it. I walked up, looked around, seen all my friends and his relatives, and I would give anything to have traded places with the fellow in the box that I was talking about. But I'd like to thank very much Councilman Larson and especially Councilman Abbott for their participation in all our group activities and meetings that we've had. I would like to just make one other mention and make it really short, is that I think this is a great move that you're making, especially because right now the statistics show that over 30% of our population in the county of Washoe County is 50 or over, and it's increasing all the time. So I appreciate and thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rossi. Anyone else? Okay, do we need a vote on this, Steve?
You have Donna.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have a card for you, Donna. Come on up.
I'll fill out a form after. I did one earlier. Just briefly on this one, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm Donna Klontz. I'm currently the chair of the Senior Advisory Committee for the City of Reno, and we've been waiting patiently and asking folks to think about creating this kind of committee for the city of Sparks, because I believe, in addition to what Mac just said, that Sparks by itself is fastest growing in senior population right now, even more than Reno and the county generally, because you have great affordable housing, you've got pretty good transportation to get folks around. You've got a lot of things that cause people to think about moving into your town. So we know that you're going to get a lot of enthusiastic folks stepping forward to be part of this committee. One thing I noticed, and I asked your city manager about it, our senior advisory committee at Reno doesn't have, I don't think it says an age limit in it, but in the draft bylaws that I understand are not being approved necessarily by council today, it says age 55. And even in your recreation programs, you say 50 and up are your specific senior programs. City of Reno, same thing, recreation programs are age 50 and up. So that would be one suggestion that I'd make to you as well, to catch that younger group of folks that are here in town that might have some ideas to add to the conversation. So we support it, and also I'm speaking on behalf of Larry Weiss, who's chair of the Washoe County Senior Advisory Committee. He's in Africa today, and I'm vice chair of Washoe County's board. And again, we too support this effort. And what we do with the two senior groups that meet now, the City of Reno and Washoe County, we meet jointly on a quarterly basis, and we would hope we would do some joint meetings with the Sparks Committee once it's alive and well. And all of us operate under open meeting law, and all go through the training. And although it's complex to stay inside the rules, I know that the new group can do that too, with the help of your city attorney as well. So thank you very much, and we appreciate you going through the process today.
Thanks, Donna. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no more comments, we have looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
Can I make a motion? I don't have comments up.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I heard Siri kick in. I move to approve resolution number 3335, formalizing the Sparks Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. And then with that, I would also just like to stress to all of us up here that we try to pull, it says preferred to pull from your ward. And I would really stress to everyone to do your best to pull, your appointment from your own ward, so we have a equal representation. I know it might not happen, but if we can, just to spread out the wealth. That's one of my big things, and I'm happy this is a long day coming. So with that, that's all I got.
Do you have a second?
Mr. Mayor, before
Go ahead.
the second, the age limitation that Ms. Clance was talking about is actually in the resolution in section 2, paragraph A, where it says it's preferable that they're over age 55. So there's no real connection there. In the bylaws is dealing with programs. So in this, while we're focusing on having the advisors be 50 plus, 55 plus, when you appoint people, you do not have to stay within any age restriction for there. So in the resolution, there's no need for any change. I just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Ms. Bybee. Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 9.2 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing
Yes.
none, whoops.
A whole bunch of us.
Is that what that for is for?
Further
Comment?
discussion.
Go ahead.
That's why my name's on there.
I was wondering why I was, go ahead.
Steve, so the bylaws can be changed by this committee anyway, so if they want to make it 50 and above, they can do that. So it's not a big deal as far as, this is just a guideline, as we say.
Mr. Lawson, Steve Driscoll for the record. The resolution is the governance of the committee being created. The bylaws, which the reason I'm not asking you to approve the bylaws is that for the chair and the committee itself, with help from Mr. Abbott and/or myself, that they can have good operating rules that are consistent with what they're trying to accomplish without handcuffing them anyway. So those are things that can change on a regular basis as long as they do it through the proper process.
And I want to say congratulations to the seniors, because I've got to work with you guys for 4 years there, until 6 years, I think. And then Donald came on, I think he's doing a great job. and you got great representation, and you know my heart is always over there at the senior center, and I love judging the Halloween costume contest. It's my favorite part of the year. So, thank you.
Okay, seeing no more discussion, please vote.
I have a question there. My name's there too.
Completely lost today. I'm lost.
I
Go ahead.
almost forgot my question. Would it be easier for anybody wishing to serve on this committee to fill an application online through the city, and then it can be dispersed to us, so we know if there's somebody from Ward 3 or 4 or 5 that is interested, we have somebody with an application? Can they
Mr.
use
Smith,
that application?
yeah, Steve Driscoll, for the record, we certainly could use the volunteer application process for this if that's your choice. And we could announce it for a couple of weeks before we physically start the membership process, if that's what your pleasure is.
I would like to see that. I don't know about the rest of the board, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we'll announce it right now. So if you're interested, doesn't matter what ward you're in, just apply and we'll sort you out by ward, and hopefully we can appoint somebody from each ward. I think we can probably make that happen, Donald. There's plenty of volunteers out there. We got great people in every ward, so I know somebody from each ward is gonna volunteer. Just has to happen, right? Perfect. Okay. Now, let me see here. No more names, there's blank. So seeing no more discussion or questions, please vote. Passes unanimously. Yay.
This is not till 9:06.
Well, you know how to clear a room.
Okay, let's wait a minute for them to go. Holy Columbus, Ohio. Okay, let's move on. Thank you. 9.3, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the purchase of card lock fueling services and fuel from Flyer Energy at the rate of the Sparks Daily OPIS Index plus 11 cents per gallon, not to exceed $565,798.14. Mr. Liskowitz. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Martini, members of the council, Ron Corman, your Public Works Manager. Today before you for your consideration is to accept a contract with Flyers Energy to provide us with card lock fueling services. Flyers is the most convenient for the city to provide the fuel. We've been using Flyers and Western Energetics, who was purchased by Flyers for many, many, many years. And it's prudent for us to, every once in a while, come back and revisit to make sure that we're getting a fair deal and that you and the citizens know what we're doing. This year, we have budgeted approximately $565,798 for fuel purchases for the entire city. And what Flyers Card Lock Services does for us is provide a method for getting us back information into the fleet management system so that we can provide billing to the individual departments, and we can keep track of mileage and things like that on our fleet as we go through time. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Corman? Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Smith.
I move to approve the purchase of card lock fueling services and fuel from Flyers Energy at the rate of the Sparks Daily OPIS Index plus 11 cents a gallon, not to exceed $565,798.14.
One question first, OPIS?
You guys quit buying gas?
It's the budgeting purpose.
15 cents?
Yeah.
Ron, can you explain for the public what OPIS?
Certainly. OPIS stands for Oil Price Information Service, and basically it's a worldwide service that monitors what's going on in the oil industry and the pricing industry and so on and so forth, and they produce what the daily pricing should be. And then it comes to us as it's called a rack rate, and then we would pay that based on what the daily rate is.
Thank you. Looking for a second, Mr. Abbott.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 9.3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Yes, unanimously. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
9.4, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the payment of the 2018-19 dues for the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities in the amount of $21,135.61. Mr. Driscoll, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steve Driscoll, City Manager for the record, and I have with me Wes Henderson, who's the Executive Director of the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities. Depending on how you deal with 9.4 will depend on whether we let him talk. So item 9.4 is part of our annual process. During the budget process, one of the policies that the council has operationally is that any membership that we have, particularly where there are dues involved, that the budget recommendations from the manager includes those things that you are thinking about during the budget time, that you would like to have as an ongoing relationship, and membership with the Nevada League of Cities is one of those. So we budget an amount, they then bill us, and at the time they bill us is when, per your policy, I come back in front of you to ask you two things. One, do you still want to be a member of the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities? And two, if so, are you willing to pay the bill that was budgeted? And so this would be time and place. When you do that, which you've done in the past, once you decide you're going to continue being, then I asked Mr. Henderson to join us and kind of explain kind of what they've done for us recently and what their thoughts are, especially coming into a legislative year. So his purpose will be to give you an update if that's what you would like. We can always do the update before you vote, or we can do it after. It's up to you. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Questions? Mr. Dare.
I just want to say the value that I believe is in this. And so when we look at any time we spend money, we don't do it lightly. But we have a voice at the table when it comes to what happens in our state. Just like today, we were in a meeting where we got to hear from Las Vegas, from Henderson, and from Reno, the things that they think are important. And if we're not at the table, what happens is this group goes to the state and says, this is what the large cities in our state think. So if we're not at that table, we don't get to share what's happening in Sparks. And so it's a value, it's something very important. And so when we spend money like this, I think it's well spent, and our time, it's well spent.
You know, just to Wes, very, very important to me also. And I'm hoping that the council will get involved heavily in this and get on the board and get to be a member, a vice president of a certain area, and then president hopefully someday. It's a great group because we tried to do this without the League of Cities for a couple of years, I believe it was. It didn't work real good. It was a good idea at the time, I think, not to rejoin, maybe send a message from us to them that we were not really happy with what was going on. But in the interim, they hired Mr. Henderson. He's done a terrific job, believe me. So I think it's paramount that we are involved to keep us up with legislative stuff, because we know how things can go south over there when one of those people over there get something in their mind and try to hammer us for laws that cost us a lot of money. So we need to be good watchdogs and keep track of what's going on over there, and the League of Cities will help us do that. I know we have our own facility, our own person to do that, but it's always good to have a second set of eyes looking at things that maybe we might miss once in a while. So to me, it's paramount that we do this. It's not that much money anymore. I don't think it's a fair price. It's a bargain, I believe. And again, I hope that the council will get heavily involved with the League of Cities and get in the mix of the board of directors and become vice president and eventually president of this group, because it's a good group and it's a good group to lead. So that's my comments. Now, would you want to hear from Mr. Henderson first, or would you rather vote?
We can vote.
This is vote to get
Let's
done.
vote.
Mr. Lawson?
I move to approve, on this condition, Wes, is you and I have been talking about riding Harleys together for a long time. We got to make that happen. I move to approve the payment for the 2018-19 dues, 18-19 dues for the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities in the amount of $21,135.61.
Second condition is your presentation be short, okay? Mr. Smith?
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Lawson, second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Henderson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Mr. Driscoll, thank you. And, yeah, I want to start off by thanking you for your public service. You know, you guys have to sit up there, and I know it's not always easy. I go around to different city council meetings during the year, and some of them, I wonder about the sanity of the people to sit behind that desk. So thank you very much for your public service and your membership in the league. You know, we derive our strengths from our members. We've had a busy start to this year. The 3 caucuses that we have formed have been meetings to discuss possible subjects for the league's BDRs. Nothing has really risen to the top yet. There's a few topics we're exploring. Nothing has been decided for the use of our BDRs, but the caucuses will meet again. And then our full board of directors will meet August 20th to approve any BDRs that we submit, which are due to LCB on September 1st. We went back, been to Washington DC twice this year. In February, they have a league presidents and state directors fly in that President Schroeder from the city of Henderson and I went to. The focus there was infrastructure. We met not only with members of our delegation, but also with members of some of the partners that National League of City paired us up with. So we met with members from the Utah delegation and the Kansas delegation. And one thing that we stressed to them is we would like to see some federal funding flow directly to the cities for infrastructure projects and not be filtered through the states and the counties. You should have in your package some of the stuff from our other federal information. In the interest of brevity, I will not go through them all. One of the things though, that we did talk about with members of our delegation when we were back there in March, and I want to thank Councilman Dare and Councilman Smith for attending that meeting, and Councilwoman Bybee. You were well represented there, and we appreciate that. But we talked about marijuana, you know, and the 2 things that we emphasize as the priorities for the Nevada League of Cities is to keep the feds out of state legal marijuana businesses and access to the federal banking system. Most members of our delegation are on board with that. In fact, Senator Cortez Masto just signed on to a bill called the States Act that would do both those things. If it's legal in the state, the feds will stay out of it and they have access to the banking system. Quickly, a couple of recent Supreme Court cases I'd like to make you aware of. In Wayfair versus South Dakota, they overturned the requirement that a seller have a physical presence in the state before the state can compel them to collect state income tax or sales tax. So all they have to do, now Nevada has a law that requires that already. I haven't had a chance to review how Nevada's law compares to the South Dakota law. So, but the big news is that you don't have to have a physical presence in the state now, so the online collection or the collection of sales tax on online purchases has gotten easier. And the Supreme Court, I think last week or week before, ruled that public sector unions can no longer compel non-members to pay any dues to the union. So if you're not a member of the dues, the union can't collect money from you to use for whatever they used it for. Speaking of Senator Masto, I attended a roundtable on smart cities that she hosted up here in Reno. Again, you were well attended. All the stockholders around or stakeholders around the room mentioned affordable housing, infrastructure, workforce development, and rural broadband as priorities. We've begun planning our conference this year. The conference is scheduled for September 13th to the 15th in Winnemucca. We've changed the format a little bit. We're now going Thursday through Saturday instead of Tuesday through Thursday. One of the reasons that we did this is to help hopefully drive up the attendance from the rural cities. You know, a lot of their council members and mayors have real jobs and have to work, so they can't really attend during the middle of the week. As opposed to some of the larger cities. But that's one of the reasons that we did that. We've already got a speaker lined up. He's a guy named, can't think of his name right now, but he's a very informative speaker. I saw him speak at the Rural Roundtable, and he's, you know, very motivational speaker, but he keeps you entertained during his speech. And then finally, some of the other upcoming league events. Have a board of directors meeting August 20th that will be held somewhere up here in the north, probably at the airport. Our conference is in Winnemucca, and the National League of Cities City Summit is in Los Angeles this year. It's November 6th to the 10th, and I certainly encourage you to attend that as you can. As Councilman Dare said, you know, we need to attend, need to not only the Nevada League of Cities, but the National League of Cities events as well. And part of that is so that Nevada's voice is part of the conversation that develops national municipal policies. And I really appreciate your involvement in getting on the Economic and Community Development Committee. So again, thank you for your membership. We're your league and encourage you to be involved. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, Wes, I'm certainly glad we approved the money before that comment you just made. Might have been a different vote, I don't know. Yeah. No, it would have still been right. Mr. Lawson?
Well, sir, are we talking about property tax reform? I mean, you know, the local governments are just getting killed by the way we do our property taxes in Nevada.
Yes, actually, they've been discussed at several of the caucuses. There is a measure, Senate Concurrent Resolution 14 from the 2017 legislative session, which would reset the value of the house and the depreciation on resale. So depreciation would go back up to 100% and then start the 50-year process. That bill will be reconsidered by the legislature this year, or 2019. If it passes by the legislature, then it would go to the ballot in 2020. So we've actually developed a resolution in support of that. We're waiting until after the election before we actually adopt that resolution and then send it to the members of the legislature.
That right there would allow us to do a ton of different things for the city. It's around $5 million that gets abated from the city of Sparks. I can hire a lot of policemen and firemen and other services for that money.
Absolutely.
And it's just basically paying the value of the house. It's not a new tax. It's nothing new. It's just, instead of getting 1950 taxes, you're gonna pay today's tax rate, which is perfect. And you still get to depreciate your house.
So you still get to depreciate it, right?
Yep, so it's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we had someone running for, maybe it was the sitting assessor, I think, running the.
Michael Clark.
Michael Clark, is that who it was? Is he running still? Well, somebody better know that he's lying about what's going on. Because you got a letter, didn't you, Jed, about that?
I didn't get a letter. Got some YouTube videos. I got on the radio, but yeah, you might want to check out the YouTube
Well, he's
videos.
stating that this is a tax increase for everybody, which is obviously not true. You know, it's only a tax increase if you buy another house.
Yeah, the provisions of the bill,
newer house, so.
the provisions of the bill only kick in on resale. And there's
Exactly.
also a provision in the bill to exempt senior citizens from the
So
increase.
we need to get the word out that Mr. Clark is not exactly correct in what the information he's putting out there. So, Mr. Driscoll.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you'll be seeing a meeting on your calendars shortly with Senator Ratty on that very specific topic and kind of what she's working on to get rid of that misinformation that's out there. So you'll be getting an update and probably being asked to help in the near term.
Well, that's great because.
He has
like
it on
Ed-
his printed material
yeah.
also.
See, like Ed said, this is a killer for local governments and, you know, and the information and misinformation that's out there year after year after year. We've been working on this for what, 17, 18 years, Steve? We've been trying to get something done here. And it's, again, it's not a tax increase on everybody. If you buy a newer house, then you're gonna pay a little more taxes. It's only right that you do that. Exactly, so. Or if you buy an older one and it's a new house, you're gonna pay more taxes. It's just the way it should be, so. Any other questions for Wes or anything? We already voted, didn't we? Yes, we did.
So before, I do have one more thing, if I
Go ahead.
could, real quick. But I appreciate your comment about getting into the vice presidency and becoming president of the league. And you were our president last year, and we have, I know you don't need anything else on your office walls, but we have a nice plaque for you.
Well,
So
thanks,
thank you
Wes.
for your service.
Well, very nice, Wes, and I appreciate this from the bottom of my heart because I wish I could have. Wish I could have done more. And I apologize for that, but
You did well, and you've inspired the whole board, so
thanks.
thank you. Thank you all.
Sorry about that, folks. Okay, where we at? 9.5, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a construction contract for the Alf Sorensen dehumidifier project, Mount Rose Heating Air for $610,000. This is gonna be the last one we ever see for this? Every time I think.
I doubt it.
Every time I think we're done, it looks like we're building another new pool.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. For the record, my name is Brian Kaysen, Capital Projects Manager for the City of Sparks. Again, I'm here today to request approval of a construction contract for the Alf Sorensen dehumidifier project to Mount Rose Heating and Air in the amount of $610,000. This project will complement previous projects and renovations performed in the pool area to help reduce humidity levels and ultimately protect the structural integrity of the facility. There were two bids submitted ranging in price from $610,000 to $632,874, with Mount Rose being the low bidder. Staff is recommending Mount Rose be awarded the project. And with that being the end of my presentation, I will answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Mr. Smith?
Mr. Bryan,
Yes.
you must have worked for Model Dairy before you came to work for the city. Because you've been milking this for how many years?
5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, there was an end. Opioid didn't have a dehumidifier problem, did it? I'm just kidding with you,
Yeah,
Brian.
It's been a difficult
Is this
process.
gonna end everything over there?
It won't
Until
end
you
everything,
take the
but the
roof
building
off
is,
again or replace it.
the building is getting in much better shape. And this is something we wanted to do, or we needed to do whenever we did the renovations, but just
I thought
didn't
you
have the
actually
money
did
for
it
it, so.
last time.
Oh, no, weren't able to do it, just with the funding available, but
Okay.
this will help make this building last a long time, hopefully.
This reconstruction of this pool has cost,
A lot of money.
We should have started over.
Charlene Bybee.
I'm just ready for a motion.
Chris Free, okay, go ahead.
I move to approve the construction. I move to approve the construction contract for the Alf Sorensen dehumidifier project in the amount of $610,000 to Mount Rose Heating and Air.
Do I have a second, Mr. Dare?
I second it.
Motion by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve 9.5 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Cha-ching.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Okay, 9.6 is a first reading. Madam Clerk?
This is a first reading of Bill Number 2742, an ordinance by the City of Sparks to approve a development agreement with Landstar Companies LLC concerning the development of a parcel 7.72 acres in size located at 2255 Los Altos Parkway, Sparks, Nevada, and other matters properly related thereto.
This is the first reading of Bill Number 2742. The public hearing and second reading of this bill will be conducted at the City Council meeting on Monday, July 23rd, 2018 at 6 p.m. And I have some public comment on this one. Spencer Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I use the camera?
That's all right.
Good afternoon. My name is Spencer Erickson. I live in the Vistas and the Sparks.
spoke at the city council meeting last month as a homeowner in opposition to the plan for townhomes at the top of Los Altos Parkway. Today, I'd like to speak as an engineer with more specific arguments against that project. First off, I'll remind the council of the Sparks Comprehensive Land Use Plan I showed last time that indicated how the designation of this lot here as multifamily 14 was an anomaly. There's no other lots in the entire city designated for multifamily that are surrounded solely by single-family homes. I'll also remind you of this map that I showed, which contrasted the original plan for a central village within the Vistas, as spelled out in the Vistas Development Handbook, with the single-family homes that were actually built. So originally there was a fire station, a community center, a school, 2 other apartment buildings and townhomes that all got built as single-family and really diluted the idea of that village feel that justified building high-density developments within the Vistas. So both these maps, I think, contradict the findings that the council would need to make in order to approve the requested zoning change. Finding Z1 says the zoning needs to be consistent with the land use plan, and it's clear that the multifamily designation here doesn't fit with either the language of Sparks, Zoning Code Title 20, or the precedent of other lots in the city. Finding Z2 says the zoning needs to be consistent with the existing surrounding land use, and from this map, it's clear that the only use that would be consistent would be single-family homes. Second, I'd like to address the issue of traffic at the Vista Heights roundabout, where this proposed project will be built. In the Exhibit 16 of the city staff report, it stated that the 2035 roadway analysis and the traffic study done for the Miramonte townhome development included the impact of this development in that traffic study. And I would argue that that is incorrect. If you reference the page 11 of the traffic work study that the city staff referenced, the wording that they're depending on here says that potential future traffic generated by all of the approved but unbuilt housing units in the immediate project vicinity have been considered. Since there have been no approved housing lots approved on this lot, they could not have been included in that traffic study. In addition, if you look at the traffic study, this is the roundabout in question. And if you look at how they were studying the traffic, the roundabout was modeled as a 3-way roundabout, not a 4-way. So if there were no approved units in existence when the study was created, and the roundabout was modeled as a 3-way roundabout, there's no way for traffic from this development to get onto Los Altos Parkway. It could not have been included in that study. And this is not just an academic point. Many of the community concerns and the issues with this project all relate to the impact on that roundabout within the Vistas. I'll just point out that there's been no study of that impact.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank you for your
that.
time.
Jody Erickson.
My name is Jody Erickson, and I have lived in Sparks 18 years now, with 14 of those years in the Vistas. I am here to speak in opposition to bill numbers 2742 and 2743, which deal with the rezoning of 2255 Los Altos Parkway and the corresponding development agreement. When I drive around town, I see the tremendous amount of development that is taking place in our area. Since I found out about the developer's plans to rezone the property and build high-density housing, I've been reading Planning Commission and City Council agendas and minutes. I recognize that this rezoning issue and townhome development on some 7+ acres must seem small in the eyes of City Council, especially since you have to deal with bigger items like marijuana dispensaries and emergency responses and larger new subdivisions. But to the community of the Vistas, those living near the lot in question, this issue is huge. And I can say with confidence that people in the Vistas do not want multifamily development on this lot. The huge public attendance and opposition at past Planning Commission meetings has shown this to be true. I am here today because I believe in the process. When people tell me that the City Council always votes in favor of the developer, I have disagreed. I like to believe that as elected officials, and Ron Smith and Charlene Bybee, I voted for you both, that as elected officials, you represent the community's interests, not those of an outside developer
looking to make a quick profit. The developer, Landstar, has given a lot of talk to the local homeowners and the city about the quality of this development, but if you look closely at his proposed agreement, that's all talk. There isn't language in the development agreement that actually guarantees the quality of the proposed townhome development. The Vistas is the oldest planned development in Sparks, and its charm is worth protecting. After the last city council meeting, when I spoke against this, I was driving around Sparks doing errands. I started noticing all the weeds around town and began thinking about other public comments that describe deteriorated neighborhoods with TVs, tires, broken sprinklers, what have you, in yards. The Vistas aren't like that. I walk around my neighborhood and I'm so proud of my neighbors' yards. There aren't weeds. There are quiet, single-family homes on decent lots with beautiful front yards. And so, City Council, I want you to know that if you approve this development, you're basically allowing for a great big weed to grow in our community, right in the middle of our prized greenbelt. There are a ton of legitimate reasons why you should oppose this development. I wish I knew what specifically would resonate with you all most so I could say that. I wish this 3-minute plea could be better. All I can really say is please, please, please do not approve this lot for high-density housing. Please protect the character of the Vistas. And lastly, Mayor Martini, I just want to say thank you for all your years of service. Thank you all.
Thanks, Jody, appreciate it. Kenneth Williams? Kenneth not here? Is opposing, didn't say anything about not speaking. Okay. So that's all I have. Go ahead, Teresa. Go ahead to, oh, I'm sorry. I should go ahead, right? Lost again. Okay, 9-7 is a first reading.
This is first reading of Bill Number 2743, a general ordinance rezoning real property approximately 7.72 acres in size and located at 2255 Los Altos Parkways from PD Plan Development The Vistas to MF2/PUD, multifamily residential, 10 to 14 units per acre, planned unit development, and other matters properly related thereto.
Okay, 9.7 is the first reading of Bill Number 2743. The public hearing and second reading of this bill will be conducted at City Council meeting on Monday, July 23rd, 2018 at 6 p.m. Also have public comment on 9.7. Mr. Spencer Erickson, followed by Jody Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Gotcha.
I didn't realize I'd get bonus time. Just had a couple of points I didn't have time to make before. The first is about parking. The development agreement for this project requires only 1 space per unit. The norm in the Vistas is 1 space per bedroom. So I would offer that any development on this property needs to ensure that resident and guest parking does not spill out into the surrounding neighborhood. And I would also argue that that would be a challenge for a dense development with as many units on those 7 acres as is proposed. The second point I'd make has to do with the impact of construction on the existing surrounding homes. By the developer's own admission, the process of building out these townhomes could stretch for 2 or 3 years. And the impact of noise, dust, blasting, large trucks, et cetera, on that lot is going to be significant on all the surrounding homes. It would be different if this project was being built on the edge of the city or as part of the Vistas as a whole, but given that the entire surrounding this lot is mature homes built 20 years ago, it is not a minor impact to be developing such a large project in the middle of that space. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jody Erickson? Okay. Thanks, Jody, I appreciate that. Julie Wardley. Welcome, Judy. Julie?
Okay, so I'm opposed to this and of the townhomes, and there were a few concerns that I had. One is when I went to the planning commission meeting, this was standing room only with an overflow into the hallway, and it was as if nobody heard any of our concerns. I have lived in the Vistas for 20 years, and there were some concerns that I had as far as growth. We still have growth to go on Earthstone, which will create more traffic. There's also the overcrowding of Bud Beasley. The blasting that happened on the next street over, I lived through that. I lived on Madrid, and we were one of the first 5 homes up there. When they blasted the hill behind us, nobody fixed all the cracks in my home. Nobody has fixed any of the cracks in my cement, my driveway. So just because it's down the hill from me doesn't mean it's not going to affect us, because there were times where they would come by and give us a notice, and I couldn't leave my home for 2 hours, and all of a sudden you would feel the home bounce up and come back down. And it was severe. And then also the notifications that they didn't give a lot of the residents in the Vistas is kind of concerning. The only reason why I knew about this was a card that a homeowner had personally mailed out to all of us. That is the only reason why I knew about the project. And there are still a lot of homeowners that do not know about this project. It doesn't just affect the surrounding homes, it affects all of us in the Vistas. Because there is one way in and one way out where I live. I'm concerned with the fires behind my house because it's partly BLM, that how am I gonna get out of that if there's too much traffic? Everybody trying to evacuate the area. I'm just concerned that during the planning commission meeting, that none of our concerns were taken into consideration. And it was very sad leaving here and hearing, everybody just down, sad about it, that our concerns were not heard. That's it. But thank you.
Thanks,
But also, I just want to say, I love the city of Sparks, and for the improvements that have been made are beautiful. But this particular project does not make any sense whatsoever. So, thank you.
Thanks, Julie, appreciate it. Anyone else want to speak to this item? Okay, let's move on to 9.8 as a first reading.
First reading of Bill Number 2744, a general ordinance providing for the annexation of certain lands to the city of Sparks, lands more specifically described as Assessor Parcel Number 026-341-45, a site approximately 1.9 acres in size, owned by Mark Bebo, and located at 2101 Sullivan Land, within the city of Sparks' sphere of influence, and providing other matters properly related thereto.
This is first reading for Bill number 2744. The public hearing and second reading of this bill will be conducted at the regular city council meeting on Monday, July 23rd, 2018. 10.1 is a public hearing, consideration and possible approval of resolution number 3336, a resolution authorizing the Financial Services Department to establish an interfund loan to the general fund from the motor vehicle maintenance fund of the city of Sparks as necessary for general fund cash flow purposes.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor, council members. I'm Debbie Kinder, County Manager for the record. I'm before you today to present resolution number 3336, which will authorize the Finance Department to make interfund loans from the motor vehicle fund to the general fund, which sometime become necessary due to timing of revenues and expenses and a balance that won't cover that mismatch in time. The NRS requires us to have a public hearing and for council to approve these interfund loans, and today's actions will take care of that for the next fiscal year, and you will see me the following fiscal year. The pertinent information that you should hear is that we anticipate an interest-free loan for up to $1.2 million of a period of 90 days or less from the motor vehicle fund's non-restricted assets will not compromise the economic viability of the motor vehicle fund in fiscal 19. So I'm available for any questions that you or the public might have.
Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing, so open the public hearing. Anyone on this want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Looking for a motion, Mr. Smith?
I move to approve resolution number 3336, authorizing an interfund loan to the general fund of the city of Sparks as necessary for general fund cash flow purposes.
Mr. Abbott? Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 10.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.2, public hearing, consideration and possible approval of resolution number 3337, a resolution authorizing the Financial Services Department to establish an interfund loan to the Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Fund and/or the Community Development Block Grant Fund and/or the Sparks Grant and Donations Fund from the general fund as needed. Go ahead.
Sorry, I wrote that kind of long.
Is it-
There are 3 funds. I'm Debbie Kinder, County Manager for the record again. Same theory. This one would be a loan from the general fund to the grant funds, and there are multiple grant funds. They operate mostly on a reimbursement basis, so we put cash out. We are more often negative in those funds than positive, but the timing is very short, usually less than a week, and then we get reimbursed. But one day negative would create an interfund loan per NRS. So again, a public hearing and council approval of that interfund loan is necessary. And the pertinent pieces to that one are that we anticipate an interest-free loan of up to $500,000 for a period of 30 days or less from the general fund's non-restricted assets will not compromise the economic viability of the general fund during the next fiscal year. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Questions for Debbie? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing. So open the public hearing. The audience, anyone want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Looking for a motion, Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve resolution number 3337, authorizing an interfund loan to the grant funds of the city of Sparks as needed.
Do a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 10.2 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you very much.
Okay, number 11.1, planning and zoning, second reading, public hearing, discussion, and possible adoption of bill number 2741 to amend Title 20 of the Sparks Municipal Code to permit urban wineries in the MUD-DT/VS, MUD-MUC-MUD/MR, zoning districts and providing other matters thereto. Go ahead, Mr. Rundle.
Jim Rundle, Planning Manager. There is currently an interest in locating a winery that would use fruit produced off-site in the Victorian Square area. However, a winery is not permitted in the downtown Victorian Square area. The zoning code amendment process was initiated by the Sparks City Council back in May. The Planning Commission recently forwarded a recommendation of recommendation of approval to the City Council to permit this use in downtown. During the 2015 Sparks Nevada State Legislature, Assembly Bill 4 was approved to permit wineries in Washoe County. Sparks at the time was in the middle of the zoning code update process and permitted wineries in the zoning code, but limited it to the agricultural zoning districts because the statutes essentially said you needed to grow the grapes or the fruit on site. The current request is again to permit the winery in Victorian Square. Staff analyzed and is proposing, as the mayor listed in the opening introduction for this item, to permit them in the general commercial zoning district, the neighborhood commercial zoning district, tourist commercial zoning district, in the industrial restricted to the Glendale, Gregg, Rock, and McCarran areas, and then of course in the downtown Victorian Square, mixed-use commercial, which is an area like where the new Harbor Freight is being constructed, and the last area would be the mixed residential, which is a sub-district of the mixed-use district. Staff has proposed with this amendment process to include a definition of urban winery and winery. And the urban winery, the main difference would be that the fruit is grown off-site and essentially transported into the facility for the making of the wine. With this code amendment, staff is also proposing that the facility be parked with 1 parking space for every 300 square feet of tasting area. Again, the Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation of approval to the City Council, and that concludes my presentation.
Questions for Mr. Rundle?
Comment?
Go ahead.
More of a comment. Since this was first brought to our attention, just in talking to people about what's happening in Victorian Square as we're creating this great vibrant downtown district, a Victorian Square district, people are really excited about an urban winery and don't know what it is. And as soon as I explain what we are looking at, the proposal that's coming to us today, a lot of excitement of something really unique. And I like the ability of doing something new. We have an ever-increasing distilleries and breweries that are happening. And this is like one more additional business that I think could be thriving here. And I'm glad to see Sparks being the leader in that, and that for Victorian Square right now, but looking at other possibilities in town. So a lot of excitement over it. And everyone I've talked to, and I think it's a great project and a great new business that fits in real well with our Victorian Square district.
Okay, next, I can speak, I have my name right up there, Jim. I'm not concerned about approving this. I would like the council to approve it. The only problem I have maybe is where it's gonna be located. Next to the movie theater, I don't think is the best use for a restaurant that we could have there. And when I say that, I mean, and this, I don't know that it's gonna be a restaurant, but a wine facility doesn't promote, I don't think, family kind of things like coming down, having dinner, going to the movies, or vice versa, going to the movies and then having dinner. So I don't have a problem with approving wineries in the district down there. I don't especially like the spot that it's gonna be in. I think we could put something else that's more family oriented in there. Even like Great Basin Beer, the beer place over there, the Beer Gardens, they produce beer there, but it's also promotes family entertainment and people coming down with their families and enjoying meals and stuff. So again, I don't have a problem with approving wineries downtown or wherever we have them. It doesn't matter to me. I think it's a good use. I'm just not, I just don't like the necessary place that's gonna be next to the theaters. I think we could do something better there, so. Mr. Lawson?
I'm ready to second
No,
the
we have
motion.
a public hearing.
Public hearing.
Mr. Smith?
I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. The only problem is, I think, is the theater is serving beer and wine as well. So it's, we're not changing the atmosphere down there.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, this is anybody else comments? This is a public hearing, so open it to the public for anybody want to speak against or for this, or? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to you, council for action. Mr. Smith?
Okay, I was,
Well, that's all right. You want
It's not gonna do it.
you want to do something?
yeah, I was gonna let
Mr.
Don
Abbott?
do it.
Go ahead.
I'll take it.
It's your ward, you do it.
Well, I think it's an exciting, just not for my ward, but all over, but, by the way. I move to adopt Bill number 2741, an ordinance amending Title 20 of the Sparks Municipal Code to permit urban wineries in the MUD-DT/VS, MUD/MUC, and MUD/MR mixed-use district, and C2 general commercial, TC tourist commercial, and IL industrial locationally restricted zoning districts, and providing other matters related thereto.
For the second, Mr. Smith?
Second.
A motion by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 11.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Moving on, comments from the public. Anyone who want to speak under comments from the public? I have no speaking cards. No one? Okay. Comments from the mayor and city council and city manager, Mr. Driscoll.
We have two things, Mr. Mayor. First, I have some announcements. The following committee appointment is available: Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, one member filling a partial term, which will end November 6th of 2018. This position does require a humanities background. Additionally, there is an appointment available for the Sierra Arts Foundation, one member for a 3-year term. Persons interested in either of these positions should complete a community service application available from the city clerk's office. You may also apply online at the city's website, www.cityofsparks.us. Click on Government on the webpage, and then under Boards and Commissions, click Volunteering for a Sparks Board or Commission. Fill out the online application. Applications for both of these positions will be accepted until the close of business on Thursday, July 30th, 2018. Secondarily, I just wanted to make sure, both for the public and the council, when the mayor discussed item number 9.6 and 9.7, that their second reading will be held on Monday, July 23rd. The mayor did state that would be at 6 o'clock. That is not a normal time for us to meet. We will still have a 2 o'clock meeting, and then those two items will be specifically heard time certain at 6 PM in this building. I just want to make sure for the record that that was clear and to make sure that it's on the council's personal calendars accordingly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'm not next up, but I want to speak anyway because I'm the mayor, so I can do that, right, Ron?
You can do anything you want.
Okay, good. I just want, before anybody else says anything about it, I just want to say, talk about the Southeast Connector. What a great road that is. I drove it with my wife Sunday. It's beautiful. It's unbelievable the time it's going to save people in Sparks from getting from where you're at in Los Altos to the south if you have to go that way. It's really tremendous, and I want everybody out there or here to take a ride down the Southeast Connector, really. You'll be very impressed. I want to thank Ron Smith, who has pushed and pushed and pushed for this for a long time, ever since he's been with us 12 years, and he's been the head of the RTC, chairman of the board of the RTC twice now. He's chairman right now. So Ron has done a tremendous job to get this going. I want to congratulate him. Thank you. I want to congratulate the whole council really for the efforts we as a council put forward to keep pushing for the Southeast Connector because it's something that's vital for the city of Sparks. If you don't think so, take a ride down there. If you live north and you want to get south, I'm telling you, jump on and go. It's something else. It's something that you'll really enjoy. First of all, it's a beautiful drive. It doesn't come close to too many houses until you get way down into Reno, which is okay with us, right, Ron?
That's right.
So the Sparks part of it gets nowhere near any houses, and it's really gonna save, I'm telling you, it's gonna save you time, and it's a beautiful 6-lane highway. I'm telling you, it's incredible. It's one of the best highway projects that I've seen in this city since I've been here, and it's been 19 years I've been here, so I've seen a lot, and this one is terrific. Take the advantage and use it, okay? Mr. Abbott, go ahead.
I'd like to have City Manager Driscoll look into getting us recommendations for a drive-through marijuana dispensary.
Okay. Mr. Dare.
I want to just make sure people remember, we have a lot going on in our city that's good for your family. We have 39 North going on Thursday nights. We want to make sure you know that's happening each time. And then we also have Art Town going on that we're included in Sparks. And so you want to look at different things and places for family, and it's an awesome thing. So it's a good thing for you.
Mr. Lawson.
I want to reiterate that we need to talk about an industrial zoning where we're going to have residential overlay. With all the improvements we've made in the river corridor, it'd be a shame to see it go back to what it was. And people living along the river, it's our most valuable asset. One of the few, well, we're the only big city that has a river running through it other than Winnemucca and Elko. So it's an asset that we should be proud of. And I think having people live down there is a big part of it.
Well said, Mr. Lawson. That is the most underutilized asset that we have in this community. It's unbelievable. The river is beautiful. We should be doing beautiful things around it. Like Rock Park. Gosh darn, that's a beautiful area that we've done there. So couldn't have said it better. Charlene Bybee.
Just a couple of shout outs. First of all, to our Public Works and police and everyone who went down there to clean up the river. Incredible, incredible work. And I've got to go down there. I've only seen the pictures and talk to staff, but important because it needs to be accessible, especially, all the time, but in the summertime. I want my residents to be able to take their families there, people to ride their bikes down there, and it is accessible now because of the cleanup that was done. So shout out to our crew, and also a thank you to the Nugget and everyone with, and all of our first responders and people who worked Star Spangled Sparks. Beautiful fireworks, great family event, and great crowd down there, and just first-class fireworks, the best in the whole region. So thanks to everybody who made that possible.
This council's right on today with the comments. Gosh darn proud of you guys. Mr. Smith, don't let me down, okay?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll try not to.
I know you will.
And I want to coattail on to what Councilwoman Bybee said. I want to thank the city manager, the police chief, the fire chief, all of the people that were involved in cleaning up the river. We made a decision about 6 weeks ago to take our river back, and we did. We're going to keep it that way. Also, they did it right. They went down with a couple police officers, the animal control people, the VOA, the health department. So it was a major effort to relocate these people in different places. It's not going to work with all of them, but for now, go down. I see more people fishing and walking the trail than I have in 3 years. It's really a nice
Say
thing.
that too. Within a week, you see the families back.
They're back down there, so it's very cool. And then I just want to thank the mayor about acknowledging the Southeast Connector. That project was approved 60 years ago. So government does not work very fast. But we kept at it, we got it done, and it is beautiful. My son lives in Hidden Valley. Took me 4 minutes to get from his house to Shields. 4 minutes. And it's a 25-minute drive going around the other way.
Amazing.
Yeah. So thank you to everybody for your efforts on the river especially. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, nothing but good comments about what we did with the river, really. It was tremendous. We did it the right way. We didn't bully anybody, but we were very stern about how we were gonna get them out of there, and they're mostly, for the most part, gone, and I'm very appreciative, like everybody else. Mr. Dare.
Sorry, just real quick on the Southeast Connector. There's also a pedestrian thing on there. If you don't know, you actually can take a bike or a walk and you can do the whole thing and you're safe with your kids, your family, and it's right next to the road, but it's beautiful over there and it's worth a Saturday or Sunday or whatever stroll you got. But go on down there. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. So.
If you don't have a bicycle, grab a Lime bike and take off.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no further business, we are adjourned.